Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, and welcome to another weekend book review. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
We've noticed a lot of you are tuning in, which is amazing, but I haven't quite hit that subscribe button yet.
Yeah, and that little button, honestly, it's so small, but it makes such a huge difference in helping us reach more people with these important discussions.
Right. It's true. Like the algorithms, those mysterious forces that decide what we all see and hear, they pay a lot of attention to subscriber numbers.
Yeah, think of it like the subscribing. It's like casting a vote for quality content, So these insightful research discussions don't just get lost in the sea of all the information out there.
More subscribers equals more visibility. Right. And that means more resources for us to make even deeper dives for you.
Yeah.
Maybe bring in experts for interviews, even do some live Q&A sessions where you can jump in.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about building a community around research,
Yeah.
where curiosity thrives and knowledge is like shared and debated.
It really does seem like in tech, leadership tenures,
Oh, yeah.
they're measured in like dog years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
brutal.
brutal. It is absolutely brutal. And that's why when you look at a story like Nvidia and Jensen Huang, who's been at the helm for 3 decades,
Right.
that's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
And not only has he kept Nvidia afloat, he's really kept them at the forefront of this
Absolutely.
constant disruption, fierce competition.
Yeah, and I think when you're considering that longevity, it's pretty clear that their success isn't just about a string of technological triumphs.
Right.
It seems to point to something deeper.
Yeah.
Something that's often referred to as the Nvidia way, which is this really unique organizational DNA, a work culture.
Right.
That seems to be the fundamental engine driving their achievements.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. And we're going to be using the Nvidia way by Tae Kim as our primary lens here.
Okay.
And it's this fascinating paradox
Yeah.
where they have this high degree of employee autonomy,
Yeah.
but they demand incredibly high standards at the same time.
Right.
They move with lightning speed, but they don't compromise on quality.
Yeah.
And at the center of it all is Jensen, who's very directly involved in the company's operations.
Right.
So it's this culture that really demands a lot of effort, a lot of resilience. Mm-hmm. And to understand where all of this comes from,
Yeah.
we need to kind of journey back to Jensen's early life, really, and the very beginnings of Nvidia.
Yeah, it's amazing how the early experiences of founders can set the tone
Right.
for a company's culture, And in Jensen's case, that journey starts with his parents really wanting a better future.
Yeah, his parents had this ambition
Yeah.
to provide Jensen and his brother opportunities in America. And it all started with Jensen's father going to New York City when Jensen was just 4.
Wow.
And it was that experience that really ignited that dream.
Okay.
So it wasn't a straightforward path. He was born in Taiwan in 1963. Then the family moved to Thailand because of his father's work.
Wow.
And interestingly, his mother played a huge role in their early education.
Uh-huh.
With English. They were learning English.
Okay.
She would randomly select 10 words a day
Wow.
from the dictionary. And they had to memorize the spelling and the definition.
Oh my gosh, from a young age.
Yeah, that's a rigorous start.
Yeah, a commitment to learning and discipline.
Yeah.
But then moving to America, it wasn't quite the idealized prep school, right?
Yeah, so the family, their intention was to send Jensen and his brother to what they thought was a prep school in Kentucky.
Okay.
The reality was Oneida Baptist Institute. And it was actually quite a shock.
Oh,
It was a reform school.
wow.
It was originally set up to keep children of feuding families apart.
Oh, wow.
That's where it started from.
Interesting.
So the daily routine there was incredibly regimented.
Okay.
Can you imagine having to cross the Redbird River on this precarious swing bridge just to get to class?
Every morning. Oh my goodness.
Every morning. But it wasn't all hardship, though.
Okay.
I mean, he joined the swim team. He played soccer. He encountered quintessential American foods for the first time.
Like what?
Things like Jell-O and sausage, biscuits, and gravy. And
That's fun.
yeah, and he even played chess with the school custodian and sometimes helped him with the vending machines and get a free soda.
Nice.
So, it wasn't,
That's interesting.
yeah, it's a very different upbringing. Right?
Yeah, for the CEO of a global tech giant.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the responsibilities he had there weren't typical.
His brother was physically capable of working at a nearby tobacco farm. But Jensen was too young.
Okay.
So he was assigned janitorial duty,
Yeah.
for his whole dorm,
Oh, wow.
for all 3 floors. And as he put it, I had to clean the bathrooms.
Oh, no.
Can't unsee that kind of stuff, right?
No.
And adding to the difficulty, his youth and likely his ethnicity made him a target for bullying.
Oh.
Now, even though it was a reform school, adult supervision wasn't always there. So he experienced physical abuse.
Oh, my God.
So you can imagine the impact that has on a young person.
I can't even imagine going through that.
It's tough.
At such a young age.
Yeah. And he said that his time at Oneida Baptist was deeply formative for him.
Right.
That I don't get scared often.
Right.
I don't worry about going places I haven't gone before.
Yeah.
I can tolerate a lot of discomfort.
Wow.
So you can see how that really shaped him, right?
It seems like those early adversities really contributed to his resilience.
Oh, absolutely.
And after this difficult chapter, the family relocated to Beaverton, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in Portland where a new passion kind of started for him.
At the Palace Table Tennis Club?
Oh.
Yeah, so this was housed in an old Elks Club building. And it was there that he discovered this, like, natural talent for table tennis.
Okay.
And he just loved it. But again, true to form,
Right.
he took on janitorial work there
Of course.
to earn some money.
Oh, wow.
So he was scrubbing floors for the club's owner, Lou Bashensky. So you see this consistent theme of hard work and earning his way
Yeah, definitely.
emerging. And both Bashensky and another mentor that he had were really impressed by his abilities and his work ethic.
Yeah.
And in 1978, Bashensky wrote a letter to Sports Illustrated, recognizing Jensen as the most promising junior in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
And he even highlighted that unlike other talented teenagers, whose families paid for travel,
Right.
Jensen earned his own way.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
So this early acknowledgement of his work ethic is pretty remarkable, and it kind of foreshadows
it does.
what he would later demand
It does?
of himself and others
Yeah.
at Nvidia.
Absolutely.
And speaking of demanding environments, his next job was pretty formative.
It was. So by his own admission, he was quite introverted, shy.
Oh.
And the experience that he credits with bringing him out of his shell was waiting tables at Denny's.
Oh, wow.
So he started there at 15,
Okay.
next to his brother.
Uh-huh.
And he worked there for several summers throughout high school and college.
Wow.
And guess where he started? Washing dishes and, yes, cleaning bathrooms.
Really?
He did more bathrooms. He's even said jokingly that he did more bathrooms than any CEO in the history of CEOs.
I love that.
Yeah. And so he worked his way up to busboy and then waiter. And he firmly believes that Denny's taught him crucial life skills.
Like what?
How to manage chaos, perform under pressure, communicate effectively with all sorts of people, and how to handle mistakes that came from the kitchen.
So for someone who was shy, that must have been a big...
Oh, yeah, that customer-facing role had to be transformative.
Yeah, that experience of needing to satisfy customers, deal with unexpected situations, that builds resilience.
It does, and he recalls pushing himself to excel at every task.
Okay.
Even the seemingly, kind of absurd goal of carrying more coffee cups at once than anyone else.
Oh my God.
He took pride in that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but the one thing he disliked was making milkshakes
Why?
because he found them inefficient,
Okay.
time-consuming to make, and longer to clean up.
So even back
Yeah.
then, he's thinking about optimization, efficiency.
Right alongside high standards.
Wow.
So then he pursues formal education.
Okay, so where'd he go?
He studied electrical engineering at Oregon State University.
Okay.
And a pretty significant event happens
Okay.
during his sophomore year.
Yeah.
In a class of 250 students, only 3 were women.
Wow.
And one of them was Lori Mills.
Okay.
And Jensen had apparently shed some of his awkwardness. And he used a rather direct approach.
What did he do?
Do you want to see my homework?
Oh,
And it worked.
wow.
They began dating, and they got married shortly after they graduated in 1984.
Oh, that's a great story.
It is.
So then came the job search.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that wasn't entirely a smooth...
No, his initial top choice was Texas Instruments,
Oh.
but the interview didn't go as planned.
Okay.
He didn't get an offer.
Right.
Then he had interviews with 2 California-based companies,
Okay.
AMD,
Right.
which he had admired ever since seeing a poster at Oregon State, and then LSI Logic, which produced these customizable microchips.
Right.
Got offers from both,
Okay.
and ultimately chose to join AMD because he was just more familiar with their reputation.
I see. So his pursuit of knowledge didn't end with his undergraduate degree, though.
No.
Yeah.
So while he's working at AMD, where he's designing microchips,
Okay.
he simultaneously starts a master's degree in electrical engineering at Stanford.
Wow.
And on top of that, he and Lori start a family.
So they've got a lot going on.
Yeah, they had a lot going on, and he could only manage a few classes at a time.
Right.
So it took him 8 years.
Wow.
to finish.
What a commitment.
Yeah, and he captures it perfectly. He says, I have a very long-term horizon. I can be impatient about certain things, but infinitely patient about others I plug away.
That's awesome.
So you could see that perseverance, right?
Yeah, big time.
So his career path eventually leads him to LSI Logic.
Okay.
And he moves into this technical role that involves working directly with customers.
Okay.
And he gets assigned to this then small startup, Sun Microsystems. This is a pivotal moment in his career because it's there that he meets the two engineers that would later become his co-founders.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Curtis Prime and Chris Malachowski.
Okay.
And they were working on this project that was aiming to revolutionize graphics for workstations.
So not your everyday PC graphics.
No, these were high-end systems
Okay.
used by engineers and designers.
Got it.
And Jensen looks back at this period, and he really attributes his success,
Okay.
his professional growth, to one specific thing.
Okay. What's that?
He acknowledges that luck played a role
Yeah.
and his own abilities,
Sure.
but he says the most significant factor was his willingness and capacity to exert more effort and endure more challenges than those around him.
Oh, wow.
And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So let's dive into Curtis Prime and Chris Malachowski a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they both had very interesting journeys.
Okay.
Curtis Prime had this early fascination with computer graphics.
Okay.
And after earning his electrical engineering degree, he turned down a full scholarship offer from General Motors
Wow.
to follow his passion for graphics.
That's commitment.
It is. And he was inspired by the early success of Apple.
Okay.
And he recognized the potential for engineers to make a real impact
Yeah.
creatively and financially in the PC market.
Right.
So he takes a position at Vermont Microsystems, and he was instrumental in designing the PGC graphics card for IBM PCs.
All right.
And this offered significantly superior resolution and color capabilities
Wow.
compared to what was available.
Okay.
But the company was reluctant to offer stock options.
Oh.
And this proved to be a major obstacle in attracting and retaining top talent.
That's got to be frustrating.
So he eventually sets his sights on Silicon Valley
Okay.
and takes a job at Genrad as a hardware engineer.
All right.
And this company, they were a leader in testing equipment,
Okay.
and it gave him access to the latest chip technology.
So that's a plus.
But Genrad was going through some internal challenges.
All right.
And after a couple of years of instability, he starts to look for other opportunities.
So that led him to Sun Microsystems.
He did.
And it sounds like he was given a pretty unique degree of freedom there.
Almost complete autonomy.
Really?
Yeah, so he was recruited by this forward-thinking manager at Sun
Oh, okay.
who was looking for someone to push the boundaries in graphics.
Okay.
And during the interview, he was asked if he could develop a graphics card for Sun, similar to his PGC.
Okay.
And he just said yes.
Straightforward.
Yeah, and he was given almost complete autonomy by his manager, Rosing.
Wow.
He was essentially told, design whatever you envision, as long as it fits in the same space as our previous workstation's frame buffer.
That's amazing.
Yeah, carte blanche.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Chris Malachowski,
Yeah.
he follows a slightly different path
Okay.
to computer graphics.
Right.
His background was in electrical engineering, and he gained experience working on the manufacturing floor and in the research lab at HP,
Okay.
where he focused on mini computers and embedded software. And he also pursued a master's in computer science.
Got it.
But interestingly, he did these practice interviews
Oh.
with other companies, just to,
Okay.
And one of those was Evans and Sutherland,
Okay.
which was this graphics company that specialized in flight simulators.
All right.
And he got rejected because they perceived him as questioning the status quo too much.
Oh, no.
And Malachowski said this is a bad omen for them. And time proved him right.
Wow.
So his other practice interview
Yeah.
turned out to be the one that changed everything.
Where was that at?
Sun Microsystems.
Right.
For this kind of vaguely defined position related to graphics chips.
Right.
And despite having no formal background in graphics,
Okay.
his curiosity led him to interview with Curtis Prime.
Oh, wow.
And Malachowski sums it up perfectly. He says, Curtis was the one who understood graphics. I turned out to be the build-it guy.
Oh.
Tell me what to do, and I'll figure out how to do it.
I love that.
And that's a pretty powerful
Yeah.
combination.
Complementary skill sets.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so at Sun, they worked together
Okay.
on developing graphics for the SparkStation line of workstations.
All right.
And they had a lot of success.
Okay.
They designed this really impressive chip for Sun using LSI Logic's Sea of Gates architecture.
Oh, wow.
Now, for you listening, this architecture allowed for a higher density of transistors on a single chip,
Okay.
leading to more powerful and complex designs.
So they're pushing the boundaries.
They are, however, despite their technical achievements,
Right.
they were both getting frustrated.
Oh, with what?
Sun's corporate culture, internal politics, and what they perceived as this slow pace of development.
I see. So that shared dissatisfaction became a catalyst for something new.
Yeah, they realized that the PC market, with its improving graphics
Yeah.
and this burgeoning demand for related software and games,
Right.
presented a far more compelling opportunity
Heck
than
yeah.
the workstation market.
Gotcha.
And they even had an initial concept, Priam's Flight Simulator, which they envisioned bringing to PC gamers.
Okay.
And to keep costs down, they planned to outsource manufacturing.
Okay, so they had a plan.
They
But how they convinced Jensen?
That's the big question.
Yeah, he's got this stable, successful position to leave for this fledgling venture.
So Priam and Malachowski start pitching this idea
Okay.
to Jensen over numerous meals.
Right.
And he was relentless in his questioning, trying to really understand every facet of the PC market, its size, its growth, the competitors.
Right.
He was skeptical at first,
Okay.
even admitting to thinking, I love my job, you hate your job, I'm doing well, you're doing crap. For what reason do I leave with you?
That's fair.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he lays down a condition.
Okay.
They need to demonstrate the potential for at least $50 million in annual sales.
Oh, wow. So that was his benchmark.
That's the benchmark
Okay.
before he would seriously consider joining them.
Right.
And these conversations,
Yeah.
often at Denny's,
Oh, wow.
were so important
Yeah.
in shaping what would become Nvidia.
I bet. So what happened at Denny's?
So Jensen fondly recalls these long discussions. And he said he considered Priam and Malachowski to be the two brightest engineers, computer scientists that I've ever met.
Wow.
And he acknowledged that chance played a role.
Right.
And for him, meeting them was luck.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he became convinced
Yeah.
that the $50 million target was achievable,
Okay.
especially as a gamer himself.
Okay.
He had this belief in the growth of the gaming market.
That makes sense. And then Priam takes this step that really puts the pressure on.
Yeah, in December of 92, Priam resigns from Sun,
Oh, wow.
and his resignation's effective at the end of the year.
Okay.
The next day, acting on his own, he declares the new venture officially begun.
But there's no company.
No company name, no funding,
And not even Malachowski and Jensen
not even them.
fully on board yet.
He just had the idea
Wow.
and leverage over his friends.
Which is a healthy dose of guilt, it sounds like.
He consciously put the pressure on.
Okay.
He said they couldn't let him flail alone.
Right.
And so by all resigning at the same time,
Okay.
it was a united front
Okay,
of their
yeah.
families. They
Yeah.
were all in.
Yeah.
Jensen joined on his 30th birthday,
Oh, wow.
February 17, 1993.
Okay.
So the core team is in place.
Okay.
What are those early days like?
Yeah. Paint me a picture.
They set up shop in Priam's Fremont townhouse,
Okay.
using Malachowski's Sun workstations as their primary tools.
Right?
Prime cleared out most of the rooms,
Yeah.
moved furniture into the garage,
Okay.
created office space with folding tables.
So humble beginnings.
And Jensen has said the first few weeks were surprisingly unproductive
Oh.
in terms of actual work.
Oh.
Much of their time was spent discussing food.
Oh.
He remembers conversations revolving around, what did you have for dinner?
Oh, that's funny.
The highlight of the day was deciding where to get lunch.
That's a far cry from the billion-dollar company.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
So they had to name the company.
Right.
And Priam compiled a list of names.
No.
An early favorite was Primal Graphics,
Okay.
combining parts of Priam and Malachowski.
I see.
And some liked it,
Yeah.
but they felt Jensen should be included,
Of course.
to be fair.
Right.
So they tried to make a portmanteau of all three names.
Oh, no.
Hua Primal, Pri Huamal, Ma Hua Pri.
Those are less than inspired.
Less than inspiring.
Yeah.
So they abandoned that idea.
Okay.
And ultimately, in early 1993, they settled on the name Nvidia.
Nvidia.
So now they had to secure investment.
Right.
So Jensen leverages his connections
Okay.
at LSI Logic, arranges a meeting with Don Valentine
Wow.
at Sequoia Capital
Okay.
through Gary Valentine.
All right.
They also had a meeting with Apple to discuss potential graphics for the Macintosh.
Okay.
But a pivotal introduction came through Roy Corrigan,
Okay.
who connected them with Tench Cox
Okay.
at Sutter Hill Ventures.
All right.
And Cox was really impressed by their deep expertise in 3D graphics
Yeah.
and operating systems.
That's a powerful combination.
And that paves the way for the pitch to Sequoia Capital.
So how'd that go?
They had a problem. They didn't have a proprietary graphics chip to showcase. So they had to get creative.
What'd they do?
They used a modified Sun GX graphics card that they got working inside a Gateway 2000 PC.
Oh, wow.
And to make it more compelling, they ran Zone 5
Okay.
through an early virtual reality headset.
Wow.
They believed that the graphics alone would sell it.
So as we look back at this early stage, what are the aspects of the Nvidia way that emerge?
Well, you can see that deep-seated resilience in Jensen.
Yeah.
From his time at Oneida, the unwavering work ethic from Denny's, table tennis.
Yeah.
You see the power of partnership with Pream and Malachowski.
Totally.
And the willingness to embrace risk
Yeah.
by all three leaving their jobs.
It's really amazing.
So considering all of this, I'm curious, how do you believe these early experiences and this fusion of individual drive and collaborative spirit shaped NVIDIA's trajectory in this rapidly evolving tech landscape?
That's a great question.
So for you listening, if you found this exploration of NVIDIA's beginnings interesting, highly recommend checking out The NVIDIA Way by Tae Kim.
Yeah, great book.
And as you read it, think about how the principles we discussed today might apply to your own endeavors and the challenges you face.
Yeah.
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more captivating deep dives like this one. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.